I'm Chris Clark, President and CEO of the Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce. This is Meet the Candidate with a special edition for Santan Valley Town Council. Today we're joined by Diane Combes. Diane, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Ohio originally, and I'm married to a Michigander. So that Ohio State-Michigan game is quite tense in our house.
I bet.
I have 2 adult children, and they both became parents in 2025.
Congratulations.
So we had our first grandparents almost a year ago, which is thrilling for me. I came from a family of 5. I went to school in Ohio and worked all over the country. My husband and I decided to retire here in Santan Valley. The connection was my son-in-law is from Arizona, the Gilbert-Chandler area, and a University of Arizona grad. So his whole family is here, and so we felt it would be a great place for us to come and stay, and while the kids came back and forth, we would be here also. My son's in California, so not too far away. Professionally, I was a retail executive, so my team was responsible for putting all of the apparel into stores, both specialty and big box. I've done both, as well as a startup. Started at the bottom as an assistant buyer and left the business as an executive vice president. And managed big budgets and negotiated with the vendors, hired the best and the brightest, I hope, and successfully built businesses. Locally, I was involved in my HOA until March. When I decided to run, I was up in March and didn't want to do both, which made sense. I thought it would be selfish to do both and win one and have to walk away if I did win. But had participated in a lot of committees and then was elected and became VP of my HOA. I'm also a substitute teacher for the J.O. Combes School District. I just thought it would be easier for everyone to remember my name. And I was also actively involved in the incorporation effort. I served as treasurer of the STV Inc. incorporation effort. So a little bit about me.
That's quite a bit. And then why did you want to serve on town council? And what are you looking to do there? And you were appointed?
I was not. So I did interview. There were 14 of us, 7 selected. I was not. But through the incorporation effort, I met so many people, parents, seniors, et cetera, while we were collecting petitions. And I learned that their concerns were the same concerns I had as a resident, with a lack of local access for services, resources, amenities. All the people we met really wanted a connected community versus separate neighborhoods. We wanted safer roads, less congestion, also access to more amenities, as I said, healthcare, grocery stores, commercial and industrial building. A lot of our families want to live and work in Santan Valley and not have to drive so far away. They want affordable housing so they can live and raise their children here and actually have it be their forever home. Recreational opportunities. We want a downtown. We want a 4th of July parade. We want to come together as a community, and I felt, given the information and the stories that were shared and feeling exactly the same way, I really wanted to run now for council to see if I could add value with our progress going forward.
And all of those things, I think, are probably shared with quite a few of your constituents. But
yes.
So what would you say the top 3 priorities of that would be?
I would say the pillars of incorporation were definitely safety, public safety, and roads. I think people generally don't feel so safe. And I can speak for my area. I'm in Johnson Ranch. There are literally 13 to 15 exits and entrances from Golf Club to Gary Road, often on Hun Highway. Extremely dangerous. I think people would love to have fire safety and not necessarily have to pay a subscription, although it is available through that effort. So definitely that's an issue. Economic development, and as I mentioned, really commercial and industrial growth. Those are the pillars that help fund any town. And again, our families don't want to have to travel to Scottsdale or Tempe or Phoenix to work. They really would prefer to do it here and spend their tax dollars here. And then get the benefit from that. So also believe an issue. And I just think we need a general plan, although they wouldn't necessarily speak of it that way. There's been so much building that's happening, mostly residential at this point. A lot of the land had been zoned commercial and then, absolutely flipped to residential. And while we definitely need affordable housing, and probably the need for additional housing given our growth rate, I think it has to be done the right way. And it has to be planned for and negotiated and really make sure our developers are good partners in providing the right access and lighting and synchronized signals, et cetera. So
we'll come back to the housing part in just a minute, but you touched on economic development, which is something, of course, the Chamber is near and dear to. So, but really important for Santan Valley specifically.
Yes.
You mentioned the tax base and expanding that. And in your opening statements, I think you mentioned that there wasn't much yet, but you have set aside some land for that.
Yes.
How do you think you can attract high-quality businesses and jobs to the area?
Generally, growth, population growth dictates the interest, I believe. I think also as we get closer to, as this town gets closer to having an economic development chair or person, I think that we can start to reach out to businesses and developers to tell them what we in fact have to offer in Santan Valley. So I think there is definitely a base of skill. There's a desire to grow. I think you'll find a lot of partnership in wanting to develop, and we just need to really start to say we're open for business. I don't even know how to say it even more simply than that. And then to negotiate, make sure we're finding the right partners.
And we went over a big list of things that the community needs, but how do you think you can pay for that, and what does it look like in these beginning stages?
Queen Creek has been a fantastic partner. They really helped the town get off the ground in terms of having to put some things in place that really couldn't be funded from the town council until after January 1. I was the lead person in developing the essential budget. So we looked at the shared revenue that would actually come back to Santan Valley based on less than 100,000 residents. And at that point, we were about $50 to $53 million. So a great first step, certainly not enough to cover us for our future. There are also grants that are available. There are building permits and funding that could come from developing within Santan Valley. And there are other fees that would come back to Santan Valley now, that we are in fact incorporated. So I think there's a place to start. And there are some funds that may have been, should have been potentially for Santan Valley that didn't quite get there. So I know that the council is looking for any of those funds as well. But it's not going to be easy, but it's absolutely doable. Unfortunately, we should have probably incorporated, 20 years ago, but here we are. And it can be a really, really exciting time. And I think that focus is critical. So really prioritizing what needs to be done for second, third, getting that general plan in place. And the council's already looking at a lot of those things, and they're doing a great job, by the way. I just would love a seat at the table to really assist in helping accomplish a lot of those goals.
And you've talked a little bit about Hunt Highway and some of the traffic situations.
Yeah.
So as long as those people are commuting out for
Yes.
work, we're going to have tremendous amounts of traffic.
Absolutely.
What do you think can be done about that? How can you expand road capacity? And what do you think needs to be done first?
partnering quickly with an engineering expert. I don't have any real experience in policy, or I've never run for an office before, but I do know working with people who are really good and smart about these things absolutely helps. But in some cases, I think there are ways to do some things quickly. Again, I can't pretend to tell you I understand the cost, but there are places where we could add a second turn lane. We'd love to do it right out of Golf Club Drive, by the way. I think there could be areas where there are only left or right turn barriers, which again would be very helpful in those 13 to 15 areas right in front of my neighborhood on highway. I know a lot of our lights are not synchronized. I believe it's very costly to do so. Perhaps that's worth evaluating. We do need some traffic studies. As you know, there are some very concentrated situations on certain intersections. And I also believe if we can partner with other communities, whether it's Queen Creek or Apache or neighboring incorporated towns, maybe we can get something done with 24, which was started and then held, if I'm not mistaken. The Central Arizona Parkway could be an opportunity, but I think we can't do it alone. And I do think that we're working hard at the town council, and even through our incorporation effort, worked hard to really be good neighbors and partners to our surrounding communities who we asked for their support in incorporation. So I think that road work, or that pathway has begun, if you will.
That's good. One thing that you mentioned was working with the developers, and making sure that they're good partners. And you mentioned a little bit about the general plan, which maybe everybody won't be familiar with. But what specific changes do you think can be done to development codes and new developments that will help create character for Santan Valley? And what will make it distinctive?
Not sure I have all those answers, but what I will tell you has been done is that zoning and ordinances have actually been passed as of Monday night at the council meeting I was at. So there's a 200-page zoning prospect and a 200-page ordinance document, if you will. So a lot of that work has begun. I believe life is a negotiation. So one challenge I believe Santan Valley has is a lot of those swaths of land have been sold. And it is a property owner's right to sell the piece of land that they have to whomever they choose to do so. But I do think talking to a developer, this may or may not, sound positive for them, but right now, trying to get as many homes in a specific space, tighter and tighter, maybe they could expand a little bit, and maybe less density could be an option. Making sure that there are access points in and out of those developments to make it appropriate, making sure there are specific lights in and out of those communities so traffic flows more appropriately. I think there has to be a review of mixed-use housing and how does that work and how does it fit best. And again, I am clearly no expert in any of those areas, but I'm certainly willing to ask the questions, listen to our residents, hear their concerns, and then bring that forward so that when those discussions happen, we could have a really robust discussion about what the concerns are. And I think without a council and without a self-governing body, probably, not that it was easy, the county took care of us as best they could. They never believed that they could take care of 100,000 plus community as an unincorporated service provider. It wasn't sustainable. So we have a lot of work to do, but I certainly don't think in any way, shape, or form that game over. We are now destined to be what we are. I don't believe that in my business life. That was never an option. And I remember it's always stuck in my head, good enough isn't. We have to see if we can negotiate whatever terms we feel are best. So.
And along those lines, and something that you mentioned in your opening statement was to the effect of parks and recreation opportunities.
Yes.
How do you see that playing out, and what's your vision for parks and recreation?
20% of our land is still not taken. We have to have more recreation. There was one council meeting, she was adorable. The woman who manages or helps to manage Little League was like, we used to have 200 kids, now we have 400. It's very hard for us to find places to play. HOAs, as you can imagine, would be hard to negotiate with because of liability. I want that lady to have her Little League places to play. And I go back to what I mentioned about growing up in a community of about 30,000. Every summer we had something called home days. We had a large park, we had a gazebo, we had rides at night, we had baseball games and things during the day. We had a parade. I was a little majorette, so I got to do my baton. But those memories are locked in my brain forever. And that's what we should stand for. We want to represent that value to our community. And we also want to keep the rural aspect of the beautiful place that we live. And so I think all of that comes together as we continue to meet with residents, have meetings where they can come and speak. And I will tell you, having gone through the incorporation effort, there was so much support. Obviously, so much more than none. It was a 66% to whatever 30% win. The people who are speaking at the council are well-spoken, have the right ideas about what they would like to see happen, from bike lanes to parks, to reevaluating zoning, to what are we going to do about e-bikes. All of that is coming forward, but it's a positive message. It is not coming forward with animosity or any negativity, which means people who are coming want to engage and they want to do it in a really positive way. So I think that committees and or asking for volunteers or getting feedback from the community, I do not believe will be a difficult thing to do. And that makes this effort even more positive and better for all of us, you know.
Well, I think you pretty much answered my next question then as well about transparency and citizen engagement.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. And I think when residents and neighbors understand what you're trying to accomplish and that it's for their benefit, generally, hopefully, positive things come forward. It's when projects happen or conversations take place or backroom dealing happens and it isn't transparent, people will be angry very quickly. And there's and not that I want to get into this whole thing because I don't want to discuss it, but I say that and I'm going to discuss it. But even with AI, the one thing, there's many, but the one really reaching element is that people feel that they didn't know that it was going to happen, that no one shared it, no one asked for feedback, lack of transparency, and it's never a good thing, never a good thing.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to talk about?
No, except we moved here because it was beautiful, affordable, great places to visit, beautiful places to vacation, and to raise your family, and to raise a family. Any work that we do right now doesn't impact my family personally because they don't live here, but it certainly impacts our seniors and families. And I'm an advocate for the residents who live and want to work here. It's not about what I deem is important for me personally. It's what I think everyone will really benefit from as we move forward. And I'm just happy to participate. And I think we can have, I always say this, I think we can have some fun along the way, you know? And that's what I'm hoping to accomplish.
Very good. Where can people get more information about you? Oh,
perfect. Yes, I have a website. It's Diane Combes, COMBES.com. So, and then I will be out and about as well. I'm going to start to publish public places that I will be. And if someone wants to come and meet me at one of those public places, I'm happy to say hello. I'd love to do that. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and thank you to Queen Creek. I actually presented the request that we perhaps have their blessing, and when we incorporated to your city council, and they've been quite great partners. So, and thank you for hosting this. It's really important for all of us. So,
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.